stream and the mics are live.
1 minute. You have 1 minute. Weren't we just here?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, we're good. We're good. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Can I throw something? Throw something? Can we have like a bunch of pens that we could throw? Welcome everybody to our tonight's council meeting. It is April 25th. As we have quorum, I will call the meeting to order. It is 7 p.m. Mr. Havlak Windsor, would you
Go through the procedure part.
go through the procedures, please?
Thank you, sir. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available to the public for playback on our website in accordance with Council Policy 3.12. The purpose of a council meeting is to enact powers given to council using bylaws or resolutions. This is the venue for debate of issues before voting on a bylaw or resolution. This meeting is being conducted through the city's one meeting platform. However, we are still using cards. So green cards are in favor, red are opposed. Yellow is a point of order. Excellent. Once we come to the question period, if you want to be put on the speakers list, please physically raise your hand so that the mayor can add you to his list. And for members of the public who are joining online, if you could raise your hand through the icon on the platform. And that's it.
We're good?
Yep.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge that the city of Maple Ridge carries out its business on the traditional and unceded territory of the Katzie First Nation and the Kwantlen First Nation. We're going to go to item 2. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Through the chair, I do believe that we were
Are there any
in
amendments to
receipt
the
of something earlier.
Councilor Youssef?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I didn't realize it would be considered as an amendment, but I would like to pull item 7.5 from the consent agenda.
That's the consent agenda.
Yes, sir.
I believe you wanted to put through a notice of motion.
Yes, sir. That as well.
So that's what you want to add to the agenda.
Correct, sir. Should I read the motion out or we have it?
Through the chair, we will come to that portion at the later part of the meeting, but we just want to make sure that we amend the agenda accordingly.
That's adding it to the.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any other amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, can I get a motion? Moved by Councillor Duick, seconded by Councillor Doze. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Can I get approval of the agenda? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Schiller. Oh, it's been a long day. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you very much. Motion has been approved. And then finally, adoption of the minutes. Can I get a motion to adopt the minutes? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Youssef. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you very much. Motion has been adopted. We are now going to move to section number 5, presentations. Nope, sorry, section 6, delegations. We have item 6.1.
Yes, sir. We have Barbara Owens and Mike Muckwald pertaining to the day of mourning. And I believe they are appearing online.
They're online.
Give us 1 moment, sir. We're going to try to get their video stream up.
Hi, can you hear us okay?
Hello. And
Okay, perfect. So, good evening. My name is Barbara Owen. I'm with my bank wall. we're delegates of the New Hampshire District Labor Council and I'm the.
I can just stop you for a moment. You're coming up very muffled. I'm not sure if it's on our side or on your side.
Okay,
Good. That's good. That's good.
is that better?
Yes.
Yeah, but you need to face your computer.
Okay then. Each year, the New Hampshire District Labor Council presents to the 14 city councils and 7 school boards within our region to seek their support and recognition of April 28th as the day of mourning for workers killed and injured on the job.
Barbara, sorry, you're coming off very muffled. It's hard to hear you.
Okay, let's turn that down. Just give me 1 second, technology.
Anything we can do on our end? No, eh? Do you have a,
There we go.
oh, you've got a headset.
Let me try a headset. Is that better?
That's better. Thank-
Okay.
Thank you, Barbara.
So our presentations are designed to be informative as we believe workplace health and safety is everyone's responsibility. This year, workers across Canada are sharing that is important to know your rights, use the tools, and defend our wins. In 2021, over 1,000 people in Canada died as a result of their work. Too many families lose loved ones to occupational diseases. And we know these numbers are just the tip of the iceberg because they include only the fatalities accepted by the workers' compensation system. In cases of workplace exposure to toxic chemicals or materials like asbestos, effects only become apparent months, years, or decades later. On September 22nd, 2022, the BC Labour Heritage Centre officially dedicated the first public asbestos memorial in North America to honor the thousands of victims who have died or been impacted by the asbestos exposure. Labor leaders, government leaders, workers, family, and friends gathered for the unveiling of Magic and Lethal, a metal artwork that is activated by the wind and evokes a visual connection to the lungs and bronchial airways of the human body. If you visit the seawall by the Vancouver Convention Centre, you can see the memorial in the place where workers without protective personal equipment loaded asbestos into ships for export for decades. I've seen it. It's quite amazing. Yeah, workers aren't disposable, and that's why memorials like Magic and Lethal are important, and why we say fight for the living. We owe it to the families who have lost their loved ones to preventable workplace fatalities, injuries, and illnesses to do better for today's workers. Know your rights. There's no better prevention measure than a well-trained, empowered health and safety committee. Workers armed with robust training are the backbone of our health and safety system. Education is key, and this is especially true for young workers who may not know their rights or may not feel able to speak up. While the average age of injured workers in BC in 2021 was 42 years, WorkSafe statistics show that young people are seriously injured at some of the highest rates for all workers, and these injuries can impact young workers for the rest of their lives. Use the tools refers to legislation, regulation, education, equipment, and more. But the most powerful health and safety tool is knowledge. Education and information empowers all workers to stand up for their rights at work. Investing in proactive prevention measures will ensure workers can return home to their loved ones at the end of the day and their lives free from work-related illness and injury. Accountability is critical when it comes to health and safety at work. As workers, we hold each other accountable, reporting issues and dangers as soon as they rise and actively participating in joint health and safety committees. We call on employers to invest meaningful prevention measures, offer robust ongoing training, identify workplace hazards and develop an action plan for addressing them, and to ensure worker participation in developing and mentoring the systems that make the workplace safer. Governments are also accountable and have a role to play in ensuring health and safety in our workplaces. We call on federal and provincial governments to hire and train more health and safety officers and inspectors. Enforce the laws we have, including legislated occupational health and safety requirements and the Westray law, and include mental health as a specific component of occupational health and safety in the Canadian Labour Code. Here in BC, unions have made hard-fought gains in ensuring appropriate work-safe coverage. For example, in 2018, the provincial government introduced presumptive coverage for mental health disorders, and in 2019, coverage was expanded to include more categories of work. Under the presumptive clause, when workers from an eligible occupation, such as a first responder, receive a formal diagnosis of PTSD or another mental health disorder, such as a result of work-related trauma, event, or events, it's easier to advance a workers' compensation claim. Presumptive coverage for firefighters has also been expanded to include 20 occupational diseases, including the addition of ovarian and cervical cancers, an important milestone for equity in workplace health and safety. When we say defend our wins, we're referring to improvements like those I have just mentioned that workers have gained over long years of lobbying all levels of government and sharing heartbreaking stories of preventable loss, trauma, and suffering. When it comes to workplace health and safety, we cannot take any backward steps. Workplace injuries, illnesses, and fatalities are preventable and must never be seen as just part of the job. Finally, last year we shared with you the Canadian Labour Congress campaign Work Shouldn't Hurt that called on the federal government to take a leadership role internationally by ratifying the International Labour Organization, or ILO, Convention 190, which aims to eliminate violence and harassment at work. I'm pleased to report that this was passed, and earlier this year, Canada became the 25th country in the world to ratify this convention, which provides a common framework for action and a unique opportunity to shape a future of work based on social justice. I would like to conclude by inviting you to join our Labour Council this day of mourning for workers killed and injured on the job on Friday, April 28th at 11 a.m. in Westminster Pier Park in New Westminster. Links to the event are on the Labour Council website and Facebook pages. Everyone here today can help us make a difference. Being safety conscious, support accountability measures, and health and safety education in your workplace. Thank you. Respectfully presented by the New Weston District Labour Council, as chartered by the Canadian Labour Congress and affiliated to the BC Federation of Labour. So thanks so much for letting us speak. I think it's my third or fourth time, I can't remember, but it's always a treat to come and see everybody in Maple Ridge Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I just want to highlight that on Friday, April 28th, the City Hall will be lit up in orange to mark the National Day of Mourning for workers that have been killed or injured or who have suffered illness as a result of their work. We're also asking that everyone take a pause at 11 a.m. Just take a moment to remember friends, families, workers who didn't come home. And last year, the 181 men and women whose lives were lost on the job. So, you know, I think it's something that's important to recognize. Having said that, I'll open up the questions or comments from council. Councilor Youssef.
Just a quick comment, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for the presentation. And thank you most importantly for all your efforts, time and energy that's expended on this to the presenters I speak. And please keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Carreras.
Thank you very much for coming and presenting to us. It's an important day, and you know, I do have friends that have been injured. Thankfully, they're still alive, but they were significantly injured on the job site. And I'm glad that you mentioned youth, because youth are at a higher risk. And through the school system, there is a project geared towards youth and teaching them about the safe work. And it just for folks that are here tonight and joining us, there is, if you're interested in youth looking it up, or if you're want to speak to your child, there is a website. It's DOM, so dayofmorningschools.ca, and it's sponsored by BCTF, QPBC, WorkSafe BC, all the education partners, province of BC have come together, and it's about talking to youth about safe work. And it's just something I always have highlighted in my last 8 years, every year to remind youth. And I just wanted to take the opportunity again, but thank you so much for coming here today. It's an important reminder.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Barbara and Mike, really, thank you for coming by and helping us to remember what an important day this is. Thank you very much.
Okay,
You're
thank
welcome.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye. We're going to move on to item 6.2, Ridge Meadows Cricket Association. Do we have Dr. George? You have up to 10 minutes, sir.
Yeah. Good evening. I know the time is limited, but thank you for the opportunity to present today. I'm presenting on behalf of Ridge Meadows Cricket Association. I'm one of the founders to the club. And this is the overview of the presentation. I'll try and keep it short and sweet. Cricket is played on a pitch match, and it's played in an oval field between two teams, 11 players aside. The idea is the batting side tries to make as many runs as possible and hit the ball out the park, so to speak. And within the limited number of overs, they make a score, and the team that's bowling will then come and bat and then try and get that score line. It's played on an oval pitch, and these are the dimensions. As you can see, there's a center pitch where the game is played, an inner field and an outer field. Ridge Meadows Cricket Association is a non-profit organization that was started and formed in 2015. The aim, or the sole aim of the organization, is to promote cricket in Maple Ridge and the Fraser Valley. We have 6 members that started the club, and sadly, Dr. Sriram Iyer passed away a few years ago. And in memory of him, we started a league to remember him. Dr. Biju Matthew is in our midst, and I'm happy that he's joined us with some of our members from RMCA. So we've grown from 6 members all the way up to 100 members plus, with increasing interest in the game. Dr. Sriram Iyer Trophy is played every year for the last 2 years. We play competitive cricket. It's called a T20 format, roughly about a 4-hour game, 3 games played on Sundays within 6 teams. And we play for a trophy, or a floating trophy, essentially. We are governed by our own bylaws. We have an AGM. We have our own value and mission statements. And we're a legal entity, although it's non-profit at this stage. We do have membership fees with concessions for students and children. And like I said, the membership has grown to over 100 members. And we've actually had to cap the number of members because we want everyone to get an equal opportunity to play. With the limited resources we have, we can only play so much in Selby Park. We have invested heavily into Selby Park as RMCA from its inception. The pitch match, as you can see in the corner photo in the bottom, was about $3,000. And obviously there's wear and tear, and we have to keep patching it up. The storage box was almost $6,000. And then the practice nets at Selby Park, about $1,500. There's obviously ongoing expenses with insurance, wear and tear on the pitch match, and equipment and so on. And we cater for this with donations and membership fees. We're very thankful to the city for allocating Selby Park to Ridge Meadows Cricket Association. We call it our home ground, and we'd like to keep it as such. It's a picturesque ground, and the neighbors have been wonderful. They're very accommodative, very friendly. We lose balls, and they actually come and help us get the balls and so on. So it's really, really nice to come play in that ground. This is just some pictures of some of our members, and you can see such beautiful days to play cricket. We like to think, even though we're 50 plus, that we play like 18-year-olds, but we don't play to that level. This is our Sriram Iyer Trophy with a floating trophy and awards provided to the winning team. It is quite competitive. So we've grown up to 100 plus members. Each team is divided into about 15 players plus. It's a T20 format. So each over is about 6 balls or 6 deliveries to a batsman. We play 120 balls per team. And like I said, one team tries to make a large score and the other team then chases it down to win the game, essentially. The games are played on Sundays, 3 games between 6 teams, and each game is about 4 hours long. On Saturday afternoons, previously we used to play visiting teams from Abbotsford, from Surrey, from Vancouver. We would represent RMC, would choose the best in our group, and they would play them. Our competitive games are usually between May and August, weather permitting, and we play over 50 games per season. Practice sessions are usually on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday evenings, and a lot of this is for working members, people who finish work at about 4 or 5, and then they rush to Selby Park to play some cricket. This is just a snapshot of how our league is structured. As you can see, games played every weekend, and then the grand finale usually is in September, the beginning week of September. Again, the bottom photo is our current president, Murali, who is also in our midst. Chris Jensen on the top left is actually our secretary. And like I said, we've been growing year by year. Conflicts with RMCA. Maple Cricket Club presented to the city a few months ago, and they've approached obviously the city and the Parks and Recreation Board to use Selby Park. This is obviously has clashed with our preparation to use the park, because we now have to share the ground with another club, and who knows whether there'll be a third or maybe even a 4th club down the line. So we don't have the resources, obviously, and yet our club keeps expanding and we only have limited resources to play. We obviously are in discussion with the MCC regarding the pitch match and wear and tear to share the cost, because it's fair that everyone should proportionately share the cost for wear and tear and patching up things. MCC clearly pointed out that Selby Park is not an ideal park for them. And one of the big points they pointed out is that they want to affiliate themselves with the British Columbian Mainland Cricket Club. And I'll highlight that. So the British Columbia Mainland Cricket Club is an independent private league with 29 teams plus, and they're affiliated with Cricket BC. Cricket BC is involved with provincially, and Cricket Canada is involved with selecting the Canadian national squad. So the British Columbia Mainland Cricket Club, it was founded in 1914. It has 29 teams plus. It's a private league. It's a for-profit organization. And if we were to affiliate ourselves with them, sadly, we would lose access to Selby Park, because they play most of their games in a home team or home ground, and then away games. So we're not keen on that sort of affiliation, because then a lot of our local members will not have access to the ground. This is a census from 2021. Maple Ridge has almost a population of 91,000. Between the ages of 15 to 64, we have 66% population. And the change in population was about 10.6% over the preceding 5 years. The land area in Maple Ridge is 267 square kilometers, and we only have 1 cricket ground in Maple Ridge. Now we have players coming from Mission, from Pitt Meadows, and even beyond. Surrey, in comparison, in 2021 had almost 568,000 people. That's almost 5 times or more than that of Maple Ridge. And they have a land area of 316 square kilometers, yet they have 10 cricket grounds, and they're expanding beyond that. What we plan for 2023, we are planning an open tournament to invite local members, including mayors, councillors, and other members, to come see us play, enjoy the game and promote the game amongst youngsters. We'd like to start volunteering and donating to Richmond Hospital and the Salvation Army. And our humble request to the City of Maple Ridge and the Parks and Recreation Board is to allocate Selby Park to Ridge Meadows Cricket Association during peak hours, Saturdays and Sundays, including our practice days, which are usually Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday evenings. We're hoping to have long-term commitment, given the investment that we have put over the years and our good standing with the city. And I know with the constraints and resource limitations, getting a second cricket ground is not easy. I respect that. But hopefully down the line, that will be something that the city will be open to. I would like to sincerely thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate your presentation, because it really helped identify the differences between the two and what the challenges are. As I don't know that we had a clear understanding of that, but I appreciate everything that you've presented to us. So at that, I will open it up for questions or comments from Councillor Schiller.
Thank you, Mayor Rumi, and through you to the presenters, thank you for for coming in, and I just appreciate that you, your group is willing to continue the conversation. You know, we did have this other presentation as well, and for a lot of us, it is you know, just a new topic to learn about. I appreciate you sort of explaining a little bit about the game, and I am quite interested to come out and see it in action. So while I don't have the answer, you know, at this moment as to how these allocations are made, I can be sure that our staff will be able to provide, you know, information, and that we can all, you know, work together to look for opportunities. I mean, clearly, you guys have very good participation numbers, and it sort of seems to be a growing thing. And I think that's really cool for the community, and
Thank
something
you.
we'd like to support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other questions or comments, I would like to thank you once again for coming and presenting to us.
Sure.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are now going to move to item 6.3, Brian Pusick, to discuss concerns regarding the connection of 239th Street to Kanaka Way. And Mr. Pusick, come on up.
Hello.
You have up to 10 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to all of you today. As Mayor Rumi mentioned, it is in regards to the road connection with 239th Street, Buckersfield, Harris Drive. Currently, right now, at the end of 239th Street, it is a dead end. When most of us purchased our homes 7 years ago, we were told through the developer that that road was going to be closed and maintained closed. They did say that eventually the farmland area would be developed, which we knew, but we were always told that that road would remain closed. It was to our surprise that one day the equipment showed up, and we noticed that the development had started and that the roadway was going to start to open up. I then started to look around and dig around and try to figure out why it is that nobody in the community was aware that this development was actually taking place. And when I started calling the city, I was speaking to multiple people. Just to name a few, it was Mark, Rachel, Renee, Chuck, Forrest, Christine, Tracy, Corinne, Patrick, you name it, they've all probably heard from me. It was then that I started to figure out that apparently a development application sign was put up, but it was put up on Harris Drive, not 239th Street, and actually down on 240th. The location on 240th has zero impact to the people of 239th Street, and nobody would have had any idea or be able to come and vote against it when you guys had the open hearings. I then asked, well, how else were people supposed to figure this out? They said, well, items were mailed out to people. So I took the opportunity and I went around to our community. And I had one person say that they received something in the mail. Nobody else did. Other people said, well, maybe it was in the newspaper. So I asked. And they said, yes, it was mailed out. But here's the problem. I can tell you in our community, one, we barely have somebody who's willing to deliver the newspaper. And two, when it is delivered, it's usually on my neighbor's lawn because of the winds that come through. So that is not a viable option for people to obtain said information moving forward. But that's not my argument right now on how that can be improved. My argument is about having that street closed. I also went around and I was able to obtain a petition through our neighborhood of 26 applicants, and I went to only 30 homes. So 28 people signed it willingly. One person did not. The other person was not home. I stopped at 30. I could have gone further. I thought that if I went to 30 homes, I was maybe going to get 10. And I could see the overwhelming response of people who does not want this road to be connected. I then took the opportunity to reach out to Mark, and I wanted to find out where the sign on 240th was placed. Because for me, that's not a proper location for these development application signs. He then sent me the link of where it was actually posted, and then I took the liberty to drive around Maple Ridge and see if maybe it was just an anomaly or if this is actually the procedure of placing these development application signs in random locations. You may have a package. Based on the package that I have, it's the exact same as yours. Pictures 1 through 8. My apologies. Pictures 1 through 8 show development application signs throughout the city of Maple Ridge, on 240th, Lougheed Highway, Dewdney Trunk, various locations. And every single one of those development application signs were located exactly where that work was going to be taking place. There was nothing that was deviated off. There was nothing that was led to question outside of the norm. Where these signs were placed, that's where it was working. Picture 9 outlines where the city placed the development application sign for the construction that was going to take place in our area. Picture 10 shows me standing close to that sign, and if you look up, you can't even see the construction taking place. There is construction equipment up there right now, and you can't even see it from down on 240th. Picture 11 shows up top on 239th Street looking down. You can't even see where that sign would have been. Picture 12 is where it was posted for Harris, and those people were able to see what was going on. But picture 13 shows me standing right outside my house, looking where the construction is taking place, and no sign was put there. That's where the sign should have been. Then more people in our community would have shown up, more people would have voiced their opinion, more people would have spoken and had an outcome, possibly for having this road not going through. I then took a picture of how they want to create it and make it go through from Harris and Buckerfield. There is no need for that road to go through. There's 22 homes that are going in there through Morningstar. They can literally loop and continue on going in and out onto 240th the way that they've been going thus far. When I did speak with Mark, he said, well, it's also for emergency vehicles that are going down. But if you go back to picture 13, you can see how narrow that road is. And there's no way that when there's vehicles parked on both sides of the street, that you're going to have a fire truck driving down that street fast. What's going to happen is they're going to try to do it once, they're going to fail, and they're going to continue to go down 240th to get down to this area that they've already been in. In speaking with this, I also spoke with Chuck, and I was telling him that this is something that we were looking to do and have that road closed off and not proceed through. And I got a lot of no's per se on that the city wasn't going to entertain this option. And I said, well, what happens if I go to the developer and I get the developer to agree that they do not have to have that road go through and they're willing to close it off? And he said, you're more than willing to go to the developer. I wish you the best of luck, but they've already had this pass through. They're not going to change their drawings. I'm pretty persistent in what I do and what I believe in. And the reason why I'm doing this is our community, in I'd say 10 houses alone, have over 15 children that play in that area. They all congregate. It's a dead end. I know that some of my best memories growing up were playing ball hockey on the street, playing with my friends, riding a bike. And that's exactly what happens on this street. We all bought in this area for safety, for our kids to play, for an area for them to grow and meet and congregate. And that's exactly what they do. And now if you open it up, that road of 22 homes that's going to be there, it isn't going to be 22 homes. There is an additional probably 60, 70, 80 homes down in that area that you're going to open it up to that's going to be coming through onto 239th Street. I don't know about you, but I live in that area. and making a left from 239 onto Kanaka is very dangerous. It is obstructed. There are trucks that park along there. And when you make that left, it is not safe. And now that road is going to be opened up, and it's going to create even further of a backlog, and it's going to create more potential accidents and safety concerns for people that grow up in that area. For me as an adult, I know not to step out onto that street, to look both ways, and we do everything we can to educate our children. But we also know children. They're unresponsive at times. They just dart out, they do whatever they need to do. And that's my biggest concern. That's the last thing I want to see, is a child get hurt, injured, and or killed. When I reached out to Morningstar, Ryan Lucy, who's the president of Morningstar, agreed to spend the money on his behalf and terminate that road. They've agreed themselves and said that they do not need to have that road go through in order to maintain the value of their homes. But as soon as I got that information presented, Rachel from the city of Maple Ridge contacted Quentin Bolton and told him to stop proceeding with all information with me, and that they are not going to entertain this information.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up because you're over there 10 minutes.
Okay.
So if you can just wrap it up quickly, please.
So basically, I've been advised that I can do my best to try to get the developer to assist. I got the developer to agree to terminate that road and redevelop their development plans. And this is what I'm asking for the city to do, is entertain this, not put that road through. And I believe you hopefully have people on your Zoom call right now who are probably willing to speak up to this matter as well.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation. I believe you submitted your petition.
Yes.
Yes, and that's going to be entered into the record later on today.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 7, consent agenda. Mr. Youssef, Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to pull item 7.5 for comment from the consent agenda, please.
Thank you. Do we need to take a motion to pull it out?
We can go through the rest of the items,
Okay.
and then we could adopt the rest of the items into the
Okay.
record and deal with the separate item.
Okay, perfect. So we can pull out 7.5. Are there any other? We're good. So I'm going to go ahead and move. Can I get a motion for the balance of the consent agenda? 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4, and 7.6. Moved by Councillor Schiller, seconded by Councillor Youssef. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Motion has been carried. Thank you very much. And we'll now move to 7.5. Do I need a motion to talk about it first?
We can have a motion to receive the item into the record.
Okay. Councillor Youssef.
Thank you. I'll move to receive the item into the record.
Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Carreras. And you'd like to speak to that?
To
Go ahead.
comment, yes, sir. I respect the neighborhood's objections to the development and the application currently as it stands. I actually side with them on this. However, moving forward, I'm not sure if we will align as having seen this application at first reading and knowing the neighborhood quite well. I believe that it would be best for this property to go to be rezoned as a commercial property and become a neighborhood hub for that commerce, as well as, of course, the neighboring property, which is currently zoned as commercial. Having the need that we have for commercial and industrial spaces for job creation in our community, I believe that this property would be best to serve as such rather than more residential. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are my comments.
Okay, any other questions or comments on item 7.5? Seeing none, we've already called the motion to receive the item. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you very much. Motion has been carried. Now we're going to go to item 9, bylaws, 9.1. Do we have anybody speaking to this or no?
Thank you, sir. I don't believe that we have a presentation for this item. This is a subject application to permit the rezoning, allowing construction of 64-unit townhouse complex and dedicated conservation area.
Can I get a motion to move this? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Schiller. Any comments or questions on 9.1? Councillor Carreras.
Just that this, when I went to public hearing, there were comments around schools and stuff like that that came up, and only to say that it's, you know, it's not our jurisdiction to approve schools, but we do recognize that there are some full schools, and as I have said all along, that any way that we can support the school district in their advocacy for more learning spaces, I'm happy to help support that. But it is a different jurisdiction. We don't have the ability to expand the schools. That's with the school district. So I just wanted to clarify that piece from the public hearing. And I also just do want to recognize that the school district has been approved for an expansion of Eric Langdon, an expansion of Harry Hoagie, which will take some pressure off the East Center area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And it is unanimous. Motion has been carried. Thank you very much. We're going to move to 9.2, third reading. 2019-091-RZ 21-21585 River Road, RS-1 to RT-2. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Dewick. Questions, comments? Councillor Schiller, followed by Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mayor Remy. I've been considering this particular project, this infill project on River Road, and I did have some questions that sort of came to me later in the game here, and in part because of the feedback that we received at public hearing around the traffic. And I believe that in the report, it identifies River Road as a major corridor, and I just wondered if I could just get a little bit more information from staff around that designation, sort of what it means, how roads are designated that way.
Thank you. So through mayor to council, so River Road through this section is classified as a collector road. And so it is anticipated to carry higher volumes of traffic at greater speeds than, say, your local road network. So typically local road networks are your local roads within the neighborhood. They lead out to collector roads. The collector roads collect a number of local roads and then bring that traffic out to an arterial road. Our major arterial roads that you would know would be those roads such as Dewdney Trunk Road, Abernathy Way, and Lougheed Highway also. So those are some east-west ones, for example, but these collector roads are to take the traffic out of our local neighborhoods onto those corridors.
Thank you for that clarification. And so you said that it's a section of River Road that's classified as a collector?
Yeah, so
or is it
sorry, that section in River Road in its entirety is classified as a collector.
Okay, yeah, it's just when I was looking at it, you know, I understand what you're saying about these sort of roads that other roads feed into, and I think of something like Lougheed or Abernathy, and there just sort of seems to be a bit more physical capacity to accept traffic. River Road does seem to be an older, narrower road, and that's, you know, which just led me to kind of consider its ability, you know, how much traffic it can safely withstand. So you know, appreciating that, you know, people are there and they're experiencing traffic in one way. Does the city collect any data around like the actual number of vehicles that are traveling on a given road every day? And do we have any sort of thresholds around when we just say, okay, this is too much, or we need to make some changes here to accommodate this? I'm just trying to better evaluate the traffic concerns in this particular area.
Absolutely. And through the mayor to council again. And so we have an annual traffic count program. And so we monitor the speeds and volumes across our road network each year. And then we compare that back to traffic engineering standards as to when road upgrades are required and what improvements we can make. On a roadway like River Road, we are constrained with the width available to us without significant encroachment onto private property. So we look at those constraints and we try to minimize those impacts. And we just recently went and moved forward with some improvements to River Road as a capital project. We've improved pedestrian crossings, curb extensions, as well as some improvements by Maple Ridge Elementary to improve the safety for students to and from that school. So we certainly take improvements on an annual basis as required. And Mr. Pollock has more to add.
Mr. Pollock?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to build on what Mr. Smith has said, and I agree wholeheartedly. From a historical perspective, there was a traffic calming initiative along River Road in the early sort of 2013, 2014, 2015. That was at the request of the then council from 2011. The classification of River Road doesn't actually accommodate traffic calming. So we went through what was called a corridor management exercise, and that has resulted in the improvements that Mr. Smith has talked about. It is a very challenging piece. It's traffic calming is normally for a neighborhood. River Road in of itself changes quite a lot along its entire corridor. One of the things that was completed also in around that time was the provision of a protected sidewalk area on the west side toward Cars Hill. And that was done in an effort to work within the constrained right-of-way. The right-of-way is only about 12 meters wide along there. It's normally about 20, 22. So it's very constrained in what actually can be done. So there was an effort made to provide some form of a walking corridor along that area. So it is a very constrained roadway. Interestingly enough, I don't have the most current traffic volumes, but before and after when the Golden Ears Bridge went in, the traffic volumes had not markedly changed in that period. Perceptions may, but the actual numbers, and I don't have the most current ones in my head, but I know that we have looked at that as part of this traffic calming or traffic management exercise that we looked at in the sort of 2014, 2015. It did look at the traffic volumes, and we did work with the neighborhood along here, and we did try to have a public open house and so forth. Again, it's not an easy corridor to affect changes. We tried to put in, as Mr. Smith said, in front of the school, the road was narrow. There's a couple of areas where we have bulb outs or curb returns to try and constrain the traffic. But just from a historical perspective, that's a work that has gone on since around 2014 onward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to build on what Councillor Schiller was discussing, having driven down River Road and now, seeing the volume of traffic that road handles as a major connector to the west side, east to west of our municipality, are there any plans or considerations to remove the stop signs off of River Road so that traffic can flow a lot better, and then still maintaining the intersecting street stop signs?
Mr. Pollock?
As the chair, I can take that question because that's a historical issue. That those stop signs were installed, I think, at 3 locations along River Road, certainly around the Lady and 216th area. Really as an effort to deal with traffic calming in that area. I do not support, and neither do the current professionals support the use of stop signs as a means of traffic calming or slowing it down. But that's a reason that they were installed along that corridor, was to, in an effort or a response to concerns around traffic speeding along that. Really what happens in actuality, as vehicles stop, they try to make it up in between that and the next stop sign. So it doesn't necessarily, they don't work as traffic speed control devices. But that's how they were installed. I think as we continue to monitor this corridor, that is something that we will continue to evaluate whether or not we should indeed maintain those. I say there are concerns from the residents because they see it as a way to slow traffic down, ineffective though in fact they may be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pollock, for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was my question.
Any further questions or comments? So I will just add my little piece here, and I echo comments of my colleagues. The challenge that we see there is people use River Road to bypass a lot of the major traffic. So the question I have is there a way, and I understand that the term collector road, but is there a way to maybe redirect that and not make it a road where everybody jumps to just to bypass traffic? Because the more housing that gets built on there, the more challenging it's going to be. So have we explored anything to maybe mitigate some of that traffic that goes through there?
I'll take a stab at it, and Mr. Smith can jump in. As was outlined, there are some improvements along the corridor itself, but it is and has always existed as kind of our fourth east-west connector. You kind of got River Road, Judy Trunk Road, 128th Avenue, and then Lougheed, Judy 128th Avenue, and then River Road sits as that fourth connector. The ability to restrict access to it, I think, would be challenging, given that there are a number of connecting streets north-south that would allow people to connect down onto River Road at multiple points. So I think what we can say, Mr. Chair, is that we will continue to evaluate that, and through our traffic count program and with the traffic department, with the traffic section in the engineering department, monitor behavior along that section of roadway. But it is constrained roadway in the first place, and there's not a lot of changes that can be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further comments or questions, I will call the question. All those in favor? And sorry, I can't see. So, okay, so we have, sorry, can you just put your cards up, please? I can't see them all. There we go. Thank you. So we have 6-1. A motion has been carried. Thank you. We're going to move on to
Next item is 10.1.
Yes.
It's here for first reading. It's 2022439RZ pertaining to 11235 243 B Street. And this is to permit a future subdivision of approximately 3 R1 single detached low density urban residential sized lots. And the language of the motion should be popping up on the screen. There are a number of conditions here.
Is there anybody speaking to it? Nobody's speaking to it, eh? Okay.
Nope.
Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Dewick, seconded by Councillor Doze. Comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to 10.2.
Thank you, sir. The next item is here for second reading and to be forwarded to public hearing, and pertains to 12211 and 12229 228th Street. And it's to permit the future construction of 17 dwelling units.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Schiller, seconded by Councillor Doze. Any comments or questions? Councillor Schiller.
Thank you, Mayor Remy. And in regards to this project, my comment is just around some correspondence that we received from Hub Cycling. And they had identified some potential, improvements and enhancements that could be made to active transportation areas, corridors in that area. I'm not sure that staff have had a chance to fully go through that. But I do just feel that where we are densifying, we do need to be providing alternatives to people besides cars. And so I would just want us to see staff taking a look to identify any opportunities that do exist while development is happening. And perhaps I would just ask that when this does come forward again, staff are able to speak to cycling infrastructure plans in that particular neighborhood. That's all.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Being none, I will call the question. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you very much. Motion has been carried. We're going to move to 10.3.
Thank you, sir. The next item is here for second reading and to be forwarded to public hearing. Pertains to 11410 207 Street, and it's to permit the future construction of a fourplex. And the language of the motion should be coming up here.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Youssef. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion has been carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to 10.4.
Thank you, sir. The next item is a development variance permit. And it is to vary the rear yard and eastern interior side setbacks at 22488 129 Avenue. And we mailed out 21 pieces of correspondence and 0 were received in response.
Thank you very much. Can you get a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Youssef. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? It is unanimous. It's carried. Motion has been carried. Thank you very much. We're going to move to 10.5, please.
Thank you, sir. The next item pertains to the 2023-2027 financial plan bylaw. And the proposed wording of the motion is that the financial plan bylaw 7926-2023 be given first, second, and third readings.
Thank you. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Schiller, seconded by Councillor Youssef. Comments, questions? Councillor Carreras.
Sorry, you sat here. This is
I sat there.
sticky. So I just wanted to provide, as we go into this last little bit on the financial plan, a lot of comments have been said. We went through 2+ full days. It's gone to committee of the whole, but I think it's important just to comment because this is our final decision on this one. And I just want to first of all thank staff for putting the budget together. It's not an easy task. It's a Herculean task, and I appreciate the thought that went into it. I also really appreciate that we heard from CAO Hartman that the original budget was looking at an increase upwards towards 20%. So not at 20%, but upwards, like upwards towards there. And I do appreciate that you didn't, you knew that we would lose our minds if that came to the table. So I do appreciate you coming with something that was a little more palatable. I do recognize that people are struggling with inflation, but the city is also struggling with inflation. And I appreciate that we've found a balance where we have an increase that is considerably lower than a lot of communities around us, but also is a budget that really invests in people in the community and reflects what we heard. I read all the Facebook comments and stuff, as well as the engagement that came through the engagement tool. And I think the budget addresses a lot of those key things. The investment in infrastructure, there's pieces on there around the recreation side, around more parks and upgrades to playgrounds, looking at the starts of the expansion of Abernathy and the 240th Bridge. We talk about affordable housing. We heard that from the community, and we have a housing summit that's invests in that. And we also have, we've put some more energy into planning and engineering to try and move those applications along. And we heard that people wanted better service, and there's more frontline staff. And I really appreciate the investment in frontline staff, because I think those are sort of the building bricks of our community is having those folks. And, the other thing, though, it's harder to see right away is, people want more shopping. They want more economic development. And there are a lot of building blocks and pieces in this budget, in particular around support for the chamber, the retail market analysis that's going to happen, electrification of the rail lot for the movies. And I think the other thing that we heard a lot of is around safety. And sometimes it's not always things like the obvious, the RCMP officers that are in there who haven't had an increase in a bit, but it's like the disaster recovery. It's the lighting upgrades and the sidewalks and the cycling upgrades and intersection improvements that are, largely in the capital pieces. So I will be supporting the sort of financial plan, which is sort of overall thing. And I just want to thank staff for their work. And I also want to thank the community for your input and reaching out to us in the various venues that you do. And, I think it's reassuring to know that as difficult as it is to ever have an increase, where we're putting the money in the increases reflects what the community wants us to be spending some money on. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Youssef, followed by Councillor Duick, followed by Councillor Schiller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to concur with my colleague that this is a very efficient budget moving forward. It's one that will enable the corporation, the city of Maple Ridge, to get the things done that are desperately needed, be it our infrastructure deficit, parks and recreation facilities, where we are lacking. And we've heard the complaints from our residents over the years. Lastly, Mr. Chair, I'd like to commend staff on taking this new, much more comprehensive and digestible approach and format to our financial planning that actually shows us where our monies are being spent and what projects we should expect. And thank you for taking on that work, having voted 3 out of the 4 budgets in my first term. I'm confident that this is a good budget moving forward and will be supporting it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Duick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I echo the comments of my colleagues that spoke before. I think this was a little bit of an unusual process for us. Typically, we would have a business framework discussion and staff would go away over the summer months and based on that direction, and then we would be looking at this in November. So given it was an election year, given we were working on our strategic plan, which was very important in order to know where we want to go and what's our priorities, have to do that first. And in the interim, staff did do a great job of presenting the different options for council. So there isn't anybody around this table that, in a perfect world, we would all love to say there is no increase. But every time I turn around, every utility bill, my house insurance today, the truck insurance, everywhere I turn, there's an increase, which makes it even more challenging because families are faced with that. Every time you turn, there's an increase. Unfortunately, just to, roll over, there's a cost to that. So we've talked around the table that we really want to be progressive and really move our community forward. Well, it takes resources to do that. So, and as far as the RCMP, 100%, we have to support that. Safety is still one of the number one issues that our residents talk to us about. So, I'm happy to support it. I mean, of course, in a perfect world, I wouldn't want to see this kind of an increase every time, but I think it's necessary to move forward and then we can look at it and have a more fulsome discussion for the next one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Schiller.
Thank you, Mayor Remy. And I am also supportive of this business plan. And I think, with this item, there's a lot of focus on the tax, the increase, the amount, and of course, I understand why that is. But I do just want to highlight that it's part of a plan, and the increase, the tax does speak to some of the resources that we're putting towards the plan. Every member of this council has worked very cooperatively to identify strategic goals that we all support. Staff have responded and come back with projects and work that will support those goals. And in some cases, you can work with what you've got and you can reorganize and you can adjust and it's not always about spending money. In other situations, there is equipment or software that's needed and we could choose not to make those investments, but truly it's costing our community in other ways to not move forward with some of this work. So I am truly very excited about a lot of the work that is planned for this year, and I believe that it will result in better services for our residents, the services that they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other comments or questions, I will call the question. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Motion has been carried. Thank you very much. 10.6.
Thank you, sir. 10.6 is the property tax rates bylaw number 79272023. It's here for first, second, and third readings.
Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Duick, seconded by Councillor Youssef. Questions or comments? Seeing none, everything was said, needed to be said. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Motion has been carried. Thank you very much. We're going to move to 10.7.
Thank you, sir. This pertains to the Maple Ridge Albion Dyking District. Tax rates bylaw 79232023 and Maple Ridge Road 13 Dyking District tax rates bylaw number 79242023 and is here to be given first, second, and third readings.
Thank you. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Carreras. Questions, comments? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Motion has been carried. Thank you very much. We're going to move to 10.8.
Thank you, sir. The next item pertains to the intermunicipal TNS business license agreement bylaw number 7918-2023. And it is here to have a replacement for that'd be replaced with bylaw 7917-2023 and that'd be given first, second, and third readings.
Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Youssef. Comments, questions? Councillor Carreras.
Just quickly for the community that's joining us tonight, there was actually quite a good presentation and very detailed presentation on this at Committee of the Whole. So if you're interested in learning more, I would encourage you to go to our Committee of the Whole meeting that was last week and watch the video and just learn more about this. Just because we don't have a presentation tonight, I think it's important to get people to look at Committee of the Whole if they're interested. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Unanimous. Motion is carried. Thank you very much. I'm going to go on to item 11.1.
Thank you, sir. 11.1 pertains to the appointment of Dan Rumi to serve as nominee for the designated group of members in our section of the members agreement for the Ecom Energy or Emergency Communications for British Columbia, Inc. for the 2023-2024 term.
Thank you. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Schiller. Comments, questions? Councillor Schiller.
Thank you, Mayor Remy. I was just wondering if I should just get a little update on the communications that we had. My understanding from looking at the report is that Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows in some way sort of share this position, and I understand Pitt Meadows had filled it previously. So I just wanted to make sure that both municipalities were on the same page with this appointment.
So I can answer that question for you. So while we do share, we share the term. So the last term was Pitt Meadows, and her term has expired. Mayor McDonald's term has expired. So now it moves to us. So it's a 2-year term. I suspect it'll go back to them after 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is unanimous and carried. Thank you very much. Public question period.
Thank you, sir. For tonight's question period, I wonder if we have anyone online or in the audience who wishes to speak.
Nobody online, nobody in the audience.
Nope.
We have to do a second and third call? No, okay. Seeing as how there is no one to ask us questions, we're going to move on to item 14, Mayor and Councillor verbal reports. Any Councillor Carreras?
I got lots tonight. Sorry. It was a busy couple of weeks. So quickly, Public Art Steering Committee met. Lots of good work being done in the community. One of the biggest pieces that we're just embarking on is the creation of an art and public spaces program policy, and this will really guide the work of public art in community spaces. The other thing that was brought up at the committee meeting is that the ACT is hosting the next exhibition. It's the Garibaldi Art Club, which is known to many of us in this community, as most of the artists come from our community. We see their work quite often. It's opening on May 6th, so I would encourage everybody to go check out the amazing work. Continuing on with the arts, we had Ouch Council meeting last night. It looks like the programming is starting to return almost to pre-COVID levels, and in some cases, in particular, their youth programming is just filled to capacity, which warms my heart, as well as their art bars are filling up really quickly, which you get a glass of wine while you're learning how to do art, which is just spectacular. They're working on their next season, and those of you who follow, they have pretty spectacular seasons. And the next season, I got a sneak peek of some of the performances that might be on the next thing, but I'm not going to share them. Anyhow, there's a really great season coming up, and I encourage everyone to take a look at the next season and buy their tickets. We have this beautiful space, and the arts really make our community vibrant, and we need to make sure we're supporting it. They're also continuing to work on the 20th anniversary of the building with a big, large art installation. So I look forward to seeing that. Also, Councillor Tan and I had the opportunity to meet with ARMS on Friday and check out their facility and look and see. We were greeted by 4 deer as we were walking down into see the river and the fish, and it was a pretty cool event, and it was really nice just to learn more about the important work that they're doing at ARMS. And then I got a couple other things, but I'm going to let other people go because they may want to share some other things that we attended. But thank you. It was a busy couple of weeks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Schiller.
Thank you, Mayor Remy. And thank you, Colleen, for your update. Lots of good stuff going on. I attended the ARMS AGM last week. They elected their 2023 board of directors. ARMS, as always, has a lot of big projects and community engagement opportunities coming up this year. It's their 30th anniversary. And so they'll have even more than usual. And it's a great chance to acknowledge all the work that organization has done in our community. And like many of us, I was able to attend Earth Day this past Saturday. And, you know, we have a lot of great community events that happen in the city and in the park. I feel like Earth Day has a special kind of magic to it. And I just want to acknowledge the work of the Ridge Meadows Recycling Society, Leanne Cohen, and her entire organizing committee for putting on another fantastic event this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Oh, sorry, Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real quick, this weekend, of course, was Eid al-Fitr, so Eid Mubarak to those who are celebrating it. And of course, Vaisakhi, the parade was, I just learned that it is the largest parade outside of India, happening right here, just across the bridge from us. Aside from that, on April 20th, MACI, the Municipal Advisory Committee on Accessibility and Inclusion, met. There was a presentation done by the LIPS, what is it? Local Immigration Partnership. Thank you. Some of their priorities, if I may share them with Mayor, Council, and the public, are to increase access to services, support employment and entrepreneurship, and promote social inclusion. Having said that, some of the statistics presented were that 1 in 5 of our residents are immigrants. Some of the challenges they face are the lack of childcare, limited options for advanced learners, predominantly post-secondary institutions in the community, foreign experience not being recognized. This is something that we've spoken about, especially and specifically when it comes to the healthcare sector, and professional connections and references. 1/3 are not satisfied with their current job fit because, of course, it's a survival job. It's not a career. And the irony of it is that 55% of newcomers currently or previously have ran a business. So we have a significant pool of entrepreneurship that we ought to be promoting and tapping into. On April 12th, the Metro Vancouver Liquid Waste Committee met and we discussed the capital expenditures. There are currently 140 projects, 128 of which are active, 12 are yet to start. So far, $2.45 billion have been invested. And for the future work, we're looking at $15.5 billion. So I mentioned those numbers for our residents predominantly to realize that if there are tax increases, we've done our best to make sure that our budget is efficient. However, Metro Vancouver and other levels of government do have taxation rights as well, and those are beyond our control. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's my report.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions or reports? Seeing none, I will add mine to the mix. I too went to Earth Day and it was fun. Of course, it started raining when we were pulling names out for the bike draw, but that was exciting to see people who had put their name in for the bikes, and they gave away about 15 bikes. But the look on the faces of 3 volunteers who were volunteering at the park and had won each a bike. It was like Christmas. It was really great to see. So I commend the organizers of Earth Day for their bicycle initiative. A couple other things on the go. The BC 2024 Summer Games, the nomination committee is in full swing. We will have a little bit more information for you next week. It's exciting. Things are moving along and I'm eager to share, but not just yet. So hang in there. Finally, kind of a first here, I think. Last week, the city of Maple Ridge, mayor, council, and staff organized a get-together with the city of Pitt Meadows and SD 42. We thought it would be a good idea to get together and share what our priorities were, what Pitt Meadows' priorities, and what the school district's strategic priorities are for this coming year. And it was fun. It was interesting to see all of us come together. And I'm looking forward to more of that, because as a community, as a region, we're all connected. And it was a good experience to go through, and I'm looking forward to more of that. That's all I have. Okay. Seeing that there's no other ones, we'll move on to item 15, notices of motion. Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to serve notice of motion to be considered at our following council meeting. If I may, after seeing yesterday's facilities that we visited, I had a tough time sleeping because I could see the difficulties and the hardships and the hard life that resulted from substance use and abuse. Considering my own children, as well as the families and the young families and youth that we have in our community being impressionable, I believe that normalizing certain behaviors will only make them more acceptable to them, and exposure is not a good thing in this case. I strongly believe that hypodermic needles and glass pipes do not belong at parks or playgrounds. And as guardians and stewards of future generations, it's incumbent upon us to look after their safety and also to understand and realize the future and the legacy that we would be leaving behind. So with that, Mr. Chair, my motion reads as such: considering the safety of our community, specifically families, youth, and children, and the rampant open drug use in municipal parks and public spaces, be it resolved that the city of Maple Ridge enact a prohibition of illicit drug use in all city parks and outdoor public gathering spaces. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And that is a notice of motion. So it's not debatable this evening, but will be on the agenda for next week, I believe.
That's right, through the chair to all of council. So in accordance with section 34 sub 4, the corporate officer will place this motion and any supporting materials provided by the member presenting the motion on the agenda of the next council meeting for consideration.
Thank you very much. Seeing how there's no other notices or matters for future meeting, and we have no more business for this evening and for this day, I will now call adjournment. Thank you all very much.